who will be missing from Brighton, who actually missed training today. A big COVID outbreak, but how big is it, and what does it mean? COVID. Where was he today? Now, obviously, Henderson had it in the summer, so 6 months maybe he's picked it up again.
Toughness is the issue, not the damage.
There is a lack of clarity in relation to, again, I don't blame Manchester United for this. I blame the Premier League. We are being treated like mushrooms again, and people have got plans for the weekend, and I don't think people mind cancelling those plans, but they need to be told ASAP. And Manchester Evening News did a very good job of photographing as many people as they could today. Did they photograph everyone? Even they said they don't know whether they've done that. Why can't Manchester United, who cancelled a game on Tuesday night, why can't they come out and say, we've got this many COVID cases, and if we get any more, we probably won't play again on Saturday. It's like a game of guess who. We're all playing detective, thinking, well, he had COVID last month. Why is he not training? Surely he's training. It's all over the place, and I think that it's almost like they don't want to put the information out there because they don't want fans to be forearmed with the information. But I don't know. I don't know. COVID's not going anywhere, says Carl. There's no reason to believe this won't continue through the season, so I don't see the benefits of postponing the game. I actually agree with that, Carl. Gaza says fixture congestion. Pogba's had it too. I think Pogba was back at training today, though. Pogba was back at training today. I saw a photograph of Pogba. So Pogba has had COVID and Pogba was back there today. So is that because Pogba's had the vaccine? Is that because Pogba hasn't got COVID? I mean, we just don't know. And you've got to be very careful because, as I said this morning, I don't really give a shit if someone has a vaccine or not. But we have plans for the weekends. Like, we. And I don't know why we're being kept in the dark like mushrooms. Like, just tell us the information so we can form an opinion. My opinion, based on scant information, is that, and James Ducker from The Telegraph has said that 19 people have tested positive for COVID within the Manchester United playing staff and staff, but not all of them are meant to be actual players. So, maybe we can't train them. Maybe we're lacking coach. I mean, we're all playing guesswork here. But what is for certain, everybody who's got COVID ain't going to be back training until next week. So that is a problem, isn't it? But I think I agree with what Carl just said there. I think that we are going to see more and more of this for the next 2 or 3 months. Until we hit the spring, I think we're going to see a lot of COVID cases. So if they allow games to be postponed because people haven't got enough players, this season's going to get postponed. I think that's what we're heading for. I mean, look, I'm doing a watch-along tonight of Arsenal versus West Ham. I'm looking forward to it. I've dropped the link in the video description. I would tune in anyway because I think it might be one of the last matches you watch over Christmas. I think the way it's going, we're going to see a lot of games getting postponed. But I just think, people talk about the integrity of the tournament, and I'm all open to opinion, but people talk about the integrity of the tournament. I spent a year watching a season with no fans in the ground. Manchester City nearly won a quadruple. That's how where's the integrity of the tournament then when Manchester United's treble gets eclipsed by a team playing behind closed doors for a season? So don't talk to me about the integrity of the tournament, because I think the integrity of the tournament last year was a joke. I enjoyed it. I'm glad we had football over no football, but football behind closed doors.
We didn't have.
That match of the day when you used to watch that and you could hear, nothing, like a pin drop. It was horrible, but it was better than nothing. So my personal opinion now is that I don't think this is going to go anywhere. I don't think while we're testing and doing everything we do for COVID, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as it was when it first came along and we all had to go into isolation for 3 months. I don't think we're at that anymore. I think we're getting very close to a point where we're just going to have to live with it. And I think the Premier League needs to adopt something like that. Look, at the end of the day, it's down to each individual club how they speak to their players and get their players to behave responsibly. And I think all players do behave responsibly, but some people are still going to get COVID. In which case, I think the games need to be played. And if you've got 14 first-team players and you bring in 4 youth players to be on the bench, then so be it. But I think that's the way to go, because otherwise I think we're going to really lose the integrity of the tournament when some people have played. I mean, already Spurs have played 2 games less than everybody else. The integrity of the tournament starts to disappear when you look at the top of the league and such has played 19 games but somebody else has played 13. It's just, it's just stupid. So they need to try and keep everything together. We need to start docking wages for the unvaccinated. This is Nigel Farage. I disagree with that. I've got no problem with anybody not being vaccinated. It's a personal choice. Don't United have COVID protocols in place? In the NFL, you're either vaxxed or up to you, or you do strict daily testing. Why don't United do this? Says Oz. To be honest, I was speaking to someone this afternoon about this. And our
didn't even get them down before
I don't know about that. We'll come back to that. You know, playing behind closed doors again. But what's happened in the Premier League is that a year ago, we were basically in lockdown in the UK. No one had been vaccinated. The Delta variant was about, and we went into lockdown for about 3 months after Christmas, just before Christmas until about March time. And throughout that time, United never had a game cancelled. Loads of teams didn't have games cancelled. I know Man City had to isolate for a couple of weeks, but what was happening a year ago is that it was so dangerous to be amongst people that football clubs had their players on lockdown. Basically, they were testing them regularly, and in their private lives, they weren't mixing. We have sort of opened up the doors in the summer, and basically, go to the shopping centre, go and see your mates, and footballers quite rightly have done that as well. The problem is now is that I don't think the clubs are prepared for this, and I don't know whether the clubs can get the players to basically become people that just go training, go home, you know, monitor who they're in contact with to keep themselves away from the virus.
Just before fire.
That's the problem I think football clubs have got now. They're just not prepared, and they don't have the protocols or safety nets in place that they had a year ago. Therefore, you know, it's a double whammy, a very infectious variant, and playing squads and staff not being as careful as they were a year ago. So it's a double whammy, isn't it? You're going to get more cases, you're going to get more games cancelled. Mark, is the Premier League allowed to do a vaccine mandate for all players and staff? I feel like this may have to be implemented, or frequent testing, says Sebastian. And Oz says, don't United have done that one? To be fair, vaccination cannot prevent getting COVID, but it can make difference between missing a week or a couple of months. Clubs must protect itself, says Arakil. Well, as I said this morning, quite an interesting thing that people might not be aware about, and this is what I suspect might be the case with some of the players that weren't at training today, especially when you look at some of those players that might not have been at training today, who we suspect have had. Well, we were told they've had COVID. They might have had COVID quite recently, but they still might not be training with United because you have to isolate if you're unvaccinated, if you're in contact with someone who's got COVID. So let's say a player for United who's had COVID in the last few months, they were training on Sunday and another player's got COVID. That player with COVID has to isolate for 10 days, but so does the player who's unvaccinated. This was in the press last night as well. So I suspect United have got players who haven't got COVID but are unvaccinated who are having to isolate for 10 days now. And that's obviously a problem as well, because again, that's a double whammy. You lose the people who've got COVID, but you also lose the people who were unvaccinated because they've got to isolate as well. Maybe that rule needs to be changed.
But it's
I don't know.
Oh my god, very
So Nigel Farage says unvaccinated will explain Greenwood with
just
England. And okay, so that's where we are with Manchester United at the moment. Quite a large number of players, maybe up to like 10 first team players are currently not training, which leaves us with about 15, 16 players who are training. Is that enough to play Brighton? Up to you. And I think again, you're not going to get a definitive answer on this, but I do suspect, in my opinion, I don't think that Brighton game is going to happen. Brighton are playing tonight, I suspect. In fairness, if you're Brighton, you play a hard game tonight against Wolves. Do you want to be playing Manchester United on Saturday morning, Saturday lunchtime? They don't want to play us anyway. They want to get that game out of the way and not play a fresh United side. But is it a fresh United side? Is it a weak United side? Maybe Brighton look at it and go, we'll never have as good a chance now as to go to Old Trafford and get a result. Maybe that's why United are trying to get the game off. They don't want to play it. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens. But I would repeat what I said this morning. The Premier League have got to come out with guidelines. They're never going to get away with going, if you haven't been vaccinated, you can't play football. That would be draconian. But what they can come out and do and say is, if you've got 14 first team players available and 2 of them are goalkeepers, then you play the game and you can supplement it with youth players if you want to. And, you know, that is an option. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if Man United play Brighton on Saturday with 15 first team players, 2 of which are goalkeepers, So that would mean you've got 4 subs, one's a goalkeeper. So you've got 3 outfield subs and a goalkeeper. You supplement it with a couple of young players. So you've got, you've got your 5, 6, 7 subs. You play Brighton, all right, you're weakened, but you play Brighton. Your next game's Newcastle. By the time you play Newcastle, everyone who's been isolating is back anyway. So it's not like we're going to have to do this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Say Miasi is happy. He's got a game tonight. Both Brighton and United will want to postpone it, says Sir Nigel Farage. Yeah, I think they will. And, you know, there are some fans that want to see it postponed as well. What do I think personally? I think it's quite obvious. I'm excited about watching Arsenal-Norwich. Arsenal-West Ham. I watched Man City play Leeds last night. I like watching football, so I really like watching my club play football. And I think to play Norwich last Saturday and then not to play Newcastle until 2 weeks and 2 days after that is a bit too long for me.
Yeah,
but we'll see what happens. I personally think the Brighton game, I'm going to err on the side of caution and say that I think that the United clearly want this game to be cancelled. And somebody made a point a few minutes ago. Why do you think Manchester United want this game to be cancelled? Well, why do you think they want it to be cancelled? I don't actually know. I think they want it to be cancelled because they're missing 6 or 7 first-team players, first-team squad players, and I think that they're worried about losing a game of football. I think that's what it's all about. But other clubs have been in this position. Arsenal at the start of the season had a few out as well. Brighton players might say we don't want to risk getting COVID by playing with United, says Sarvesh. Any other Premier League clubs having these issues, says
he's mad.
Music. And I think that's a great point. Like, Watford against Burnley has been cancelled tonight because Watford have got a lot of COVID cases. How many? Leicester and Spurs wanted to cancel their game tomorrow because they've got some COVID cases. How many? And that's what we need to know. How many cases means cancellation? How many cases means you play the game? Surely they know by now how many players we've got to play on Saturday. The lack of communication is crazy. Call it off now if they are going to, says John. I agree. And I think that the Premier League wanted Manchester United to play Brentford on Tuesday night.
Nice,
reading between the lines, they've made Leicester play Spurs tomorrow. They've cancelled Watford Burnley tonight. They've cancelled Manchester United Brentford last night. But I think they had to cancel that game because United didn't train on Monday.
No!
United are training today.
Oh yes.
I don't think United probably wanted to train today. So why are they training today? I think they're training
practice,
today.
But this is just testing waters.
You're playing against Brighton on Saturday.
Not even
unless you
Jesus
get any more
Christ.
COVID cases. So I
Delete
think
Monk.
the Premier League wanted United to play Brentford, but I think because we didn't train on Monday, quite rightly, they said, okay, well, you're not playing against Brentford, but we want you to play against Brighton. So I think United reluctantly are training, and if they get any more cases, they'll say no. Brief story on why you didn't go pro, says Cesar. Well, I'm not talking about that now. Ask me on the watch along. I'll tell you about that.
This is
Nigel Farage.
Not even ancient weapons. Imagine having ancient shamrock should help a lot.
Training today that are first teamers.
Not even tuned correctly.
Dean Henderson's not really a first teamer.
Like we are missing one stat, right? Not even 10% damage on them.
He's not going to be used, is he? So Henderson and Heaton weren't there, but I mean, that's by the by whether they were there or not. Luke Shaw wasn't there, probably wouldn't have played anyway. Mengi doesn't play anyway. Maguire obviously is a first teamer. Lingard hasn't been playing. Van der Beek, well look, Donny is a valuable